Hello and welcome to all of our life learners, and thank you so much for tuning in. Are you ready to deconstruct the rules? Do you like to defy the norms? And are you ready to define your success? Well, your head nods or your yes responses will make you want to stay tuned today. So good day to all our YouTube viewers and audio listeners. Thank you and welcome to the very, very special episode 300. It is a new milestone for the Business of Life Masterclass podcast here in season 8, and we have a fabulous guest for you. So for our listeners and viewers both, we ask you to please think about the last time you really had a chance to change the rules. You know that Barb and I are all about creating and appreciating rules that lead to growth and success. So today's episode of the Business of Life Masterclass is on how to get unruly and get unstoppable. So hello again, everyone. Debbie Lundberg, Performance and Mindset Coach with Presenting Powerfully.
Hey everyone, Barb Zant here, media sales leader and founder of the lifestyle brand and the blog Stay at Work Mom. Debbie, who is our guest today, who can show us ways to make their own rules.
Well, Barb, she is the author of the national best-selling book. So best-selling author here. And the book is Unruly. She is the founder of a government contracting firm that she grew from 100 million, not shabby in the first place, in annual revenues and 300 employees before selling it in 2022. Under her leadership, her first win was the largest ever contract to a women-owned business in the U.S. Special Operations Command headquarters history. She's a history maker. The headquarters for the Navy SEALs and the Army Green Berets. This made her company, WWC Global, one of the most successful women-owned small businesses in the government contracting space ever. Doesn't sound small, but we know that's just a category, right? This is huge, very big. Prior to launching her own firm, she worked under 2 administrations in the White House, including a presidential and party transition. And she is a member of what she calls, get this, Barb, the Panini generation, as she is raising 2 children and she's a caregiver to her father. So please welcome fellow University of Michigan alumni, Lauren Weiner.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Thank you, guys. I am so honored to be the 300th guest of this podcast. What a phenomenal podcast and what a phenomenal milestone you guys are at. I mean, I've done podcasts before, and it's hard and it's a lot of work. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on this amazing podcast for this great milestone.
Thank you, Lauren, and welcome everyone to our 300th episode. So we would love to hear one thing that is not in our bio, your bio, that's interesting or cool, but just to tease, and we will hear more about it at the end of our episode.
Yes. Well, this is always the one that I use for my 2 truths and a lie whenever we're getting to know people. So if anyone ends up hearing me afterwards on 2 truths and a lie, just pretend you don't know this. I almost joined the circus after college and before I went to graduate school.
Wow. Can't wait to hear more on that. So, Lauren, you were invited on the Business of Life Masterclass podcast for your ability to make change and inspire others to do the same. Since you have listened to our podcast, please share briefly what specifically made you want to be on the Business of Life Masterclass podcast.
So I have something that I talk about in the book called rational optimism, which is really finding the balance between pessimism and optimism and channeling both to get to the best outcome. This podcast is so incredibly good at optimism and finding the optimistic within kind of the way life goes. And so it really does fit within my approach to life. So I truly was really excited when you approached me to do this.
Thank you for your take, and I'm interested in hearing more. But before we do get into our podcast 4, and those are the 4 questions that Debbie is about to ask, what is one thing that you are super excited about as we are in the middle of 2026?
You know, it's funny because I have been, for 20 plus years at this point, I've been building all of the stuff that I get to do, right? And my husband has been an incredible support system for me. He has been my biggest cheerleader. He has been the one who picks up all of the stuff as it goes. He started his own passion project now, which is the Sound Attic, which is this great business, but with a nonprofit heart in the background of it. And so it's an audio store down in South Tampa. It's all run and led by students, student interns. All of the proceeds, all of the profits go into student experience and arts education in Tampa and beyond. And so this thing is what he's wanted to do for years and years and years. And I get to actually support him on it. And it's an incredible turn of events to be able to be the one in a supporting role and kind of cheerleading and helping guide in the background, but watching him thrive. That has been something I am super excited about as we move forward.
Sounds incredible. And since you're excited about your husband's passion project, if you had one song, what's your life's walk up music?
So I have always used King of Anything by Sarah Bareilles. Right? This idea that somebody else doesn't get to define what you're doing. And so who died and made you king of anything? It is a song that I sent when it first came out to my nieces. Now I make my daughter listen to it. I listen to it all the time when I need to get kind of around the idea of like, I get to choose. So.
Oh yeah. And Sarah Bareilles is amazing. She's great in concert.
Yes.
If you've seen her, good. And if not, boy, for anybody who hasn't, she's up there with a piano and she is raw and it is fabulous. So King of Anything, of course, we will be listening to that. And I had the good fortune of getting to be there at slightly after the ribbon was cut for the Sound Attic. And what an incredible place. I mean, Barb, you will love it. Our listeners, you will be so impressed with these students who guide you through, and you forget that they may not have the years on the earth that we have experienced, but they have the passion and knowledge, and they're very good at it. So thank you for sharing that about your husband's place. It's really cool. All right. So Lauren, we are moving on to the Business of Life Masterclass Podcast 4. These are the 4 questions we ask every guest. So of course, we're going to ask you, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Lauren is ready and Barb and I are ready. I've got my book here. You see it in the back with Lauren. And so we don't know. We might get some insights here too. All right. Number 1, what time, Lauren, do you get up in the morning? And what do you have as a morning routine that you believe sets your day off right?
So I have listened to many, many, many of your podcasts. I can't say I've listened to every single one of them. I think I'm going to be different than almost everyone here. I actually sleep in. I am not an early riser. At various points in my life, I've had to be an early riser, right? When my kids were little, it was great that they never slept through the night, which was not great. But I was able to wake up at 2:00 in the morning and 4:00 in the morning and 6:00 in the morning and check in with my overseas clients in the middle of the night. But since then, I sleep in. I get up at maybe 7:30 most days. Because I'm doing all sorts of stuff on social media, it's easy for me to jump on social media first and just check in and see what's going on. So that's my kind of ease into it. And look, I wake up at like 4:00 in the morning because I'm a middle-aged woman, but I go back to sleep and it's awesome. And I love it. And it has been definitely worth it for me to actually get to sleep in now.
Yeah. Sleep is not overrated. It's so important. So good for you. And You'll hear in some upcoming episodes that Barb and I are putting a focus on sleep. So you're right in line, believe it with or not, with where some of these episodes are going. All right. So number 2, what is something other than the sleeping in morning routine and checking in on social media that you do that you believe if other people would do, it would give them an added bonus or a little bit of oomph in addition to what they're doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to get to the heart of Unruly, the book, right? And so I question conventional wisdom, right? I am a rule follower to the extreme. I have always been a rule follower. I'm never going to break the rules. And I did everything that everyone told me to do when I was younger, right? My brothers tell me that I was a goody two shoes and probably fairly insufferable for that. But at this point in my life, I'm going to question what everyone tells me is the way it has to be done. And that's really gotten me out of my comfort zone and to this phenomenal growth that we saw, because I started realizing the people who said, you have to do this, you have to do that. If you can go back to the source documents of the actual rules, if you can question, why are we supposed to be doing this? Because most of it is unwritten rules. It doesn't mean that you just buck trends because you want to. You dig in and you get those questions answers as to why we are doing this. Sometimes it's good to do it. Sometimes there's a reason that you're supposed to follow that conventional wisdom. But oftentimes those questions, those conventional wisdom kind of paths that they're going to set you on, you can break free from them and you can get onto your own unique, authentic path to your own version of success. So that's what I do to kind of question that conventional wisdom.
And you do. And for those of you who have read the book, you'll know this. And for those of you who are going to read the book, you'll get to see it. Lauren strongly suggests, though, you have to know the rules first. First, know them so that you can understand them. Because I've heard Lauren speak many, many, many times. And I always enjoy and appreciate that you say, I'm not a rule breaker. And I think everybody's shocked when you say it. And yet you're not a rule breaker for the sake of breaking rules. You're a rule breaker when the rules don't fit. So that was something I love in the book and that you say often. So thank you. All right. So number 3, and I'm really curious about this too. Who or what has been the biggest influence in and on your life and your success and your continued focus now on supporting your husband and making your life all that it's been? And really importantly, Lauren, what have you done with that influence?
Yeah, so I would say, my dad is probably my biggest success. And Debbie, he was actually a football player at Michigan.
Hail to the victors.
Hail to the victors. I knew, in fact, my kids also knew the fight song before they actually could speak. Right. But I grew up with my dad. It's just an incredible role model. Overall, he was what I call in the book my first Sherpa. Right. He didn't just tell me what to do. He didn't sit on high as a mentor or as a guide or as a sponsor. I kind of feel like when that happens, they sit and tell you what they think or what they've done. He packed along with me, literally. Like, he read every paper I ever wrote until I ended up at the White House, and he wasn't allowed to read them anymore. But every single thing that I did, he was there letting me do it, letting me figure it out, but giving me his wisdom along the way. And so one of the biggest things he told me early on, and has been kind of a mantra throughout my life, is choose your battles. If you're going to fight, fight. But if it's not worth really fighting, stop, right? Yeah. You don't have to. And so it's an energy kind of management tool of, if you're going to put your resources against it, put your resources against it. If there's minimal resources that you're going to put against it, sure, go ahead. But if it's going to take a lot, figure out if it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest things he taught me, and it comes out throughout the book in terms of managing those resources, of really heavily curating your priorities. I call it in the book, ruthlessly curating your priorities. Because if you don't, you're just going to be tilting at windmills all the time and never get anywhere. So really finding the places that your energy makes the most sense to use is really the critical piece. And that's one of the very many things that my dad taught me.
Yeah. And what a gift. What a gift. I just wrote down love plus emotional intelligence plus prioritization equals directional energy. I mean, it just feels like a wonderful way that he shared that with you. And you do that. And you mentioned the word, and I know I've heard you explain it before, but you are very intentional about that word Sherpa, as opposed to mentor, coach, or cheerleader, because of that fact that they go along for the ride with you. So love that our listeners and viewers get to hear that from you directly. All right, well, here's number 4. You know, our series and the master classes that we've already held and the ones we'll have in the future, they're all based in the positive. And you talk about how you go from optimism and how you have this realistic and the radical, and all of these things are packed into the book. So we want people to do things that are positive in their life, but not that popcorn positivity. At the same time, some things people are doing are holding them back from having the best life. So what are you observing? Because you get to go all over the world now with your book, and speak to so many people and so many groups, and your daughters with hockey all over the world. So what are you noticing that people could stop doing that would then move them forward?
So what I would say is stop suffering from the imposter syndrome. Experience the imposter syndrome. I actually, and in the book I have a whole long section on this. I truly believe that the imposter syndrome is a superpower. I think it is a signal that you are uncomfortable, and that is a good signal. But it allows you to seek out good information. It allows you to get more comfortable by figuring out who's around you that can tell you what's going on. Bring in more data. Try to figure out what your discomfort is around, because it's a great signal. There are people who don't experience the imposter syndrome, and I talk a lot in the book about the 3 different kinds of people who don't experience the imposter syndrome. None of them are good leaders. None of them, more than likely, are good people generally to have around, even outside of business. And so if you are not experiencing the imposter syndrome, either you're not pushing hard into growth, which is fine sometimes, right? And I'm perfectly happy to be comfortable every once in a while and just sit with it. But if you recognize that you're not feeling it because you're not pushing hard, then you know that you're not growing, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And there are the 2 other kinds of people who tend to be really toxic as leaders or as friends or as other relationships, because either they're so not introspective that they don't realize they don't know what they're talking about, or they're so terrified that somebody's going to figure out, or they're going to figure out that they don't know what they're talking about, that they become very toxic in kind of their response to ego threats. And so if you're not feeling the imposter syndrome, that may be a problem. But if you suffer from the imposter syndrome, that becomes a problem as well. So if you know that it is a good thing instead of a bad thing, if you recognize that, having that feeling of being an imposter should be an expectation, right? I figured this out when I was in the White House, and I started looking around. I suffered from the imposter syndrome to the extreme, right? I tell the story in the book of sitting in a brown bag lunch with the woman who coined the term imposter syndrome, her telling us all about how truly it is very high achieving women at that point. It does happen in men, but at that point the research was talking about women who deserve to be in the rooms that they're in, but feel like somebody is going to discover them. And Debbie, Barbara, I was sitting there cringing, like, oh my God, they're going to figure out that she's actually talking about me as the imposter. Totally missed the point of the talk. And so, but I realized when I was in the White House a couple years later that a lot of the people around me weren't any smarter than I was. They were blustering. They were, there, and I knew more, in particularly in the cases where kind of they were blustering through something that I happened to know really well. And I realized, wait a second, if they're blustering in this area that I know well, maybe they're blustering in a whole lot of other areas, right? So why am I so worried about what they think about me? They don't know what they're talking about either. So that was kind of the veil lifted on me. And I said, okay, I can still experience this. I don't have to suffer from it.
So well stated. And I hope people go back and hear you say this whole story again. And it is in the book. It is. And when in person you tell that story, and in person, Lauren like shrinks down when she's talking about the brown bag lunch. It's so important though to realize that it's like our ego is good in many ways. It makes us shower and show up looking good, but it can go so extreme that we're afraid to get caught, like you said. So highly, highly, highly encourage people to think about that, not suffering. So thank you so much. I know we got a lot of insights into you and some into Unruly's key ideas, like learn where to push by starting with the rules, break the mold by knowing exactly what you're doing. You talked about that. I was thinking about these things in the book. Use what sets you apart. Like you said, this can be your superpower. Say yes without losing your head. People have to read a little more in the book about that. But who knows? It could come up about the circus in a minute. Rethink the game before you burn out, which clearly you have. And when growth isn't the goal, you talk a lot about that. So more things that people can get, and we'll put the link into the book. And I know Barb's got some things for us to do, right, Barb?
Thank you so much, Lauren. Your ideas made me feel empowered to go break some rules. So I'm excited about that. A couple of things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to read the book right away. And then I'm also, my son is graduating high school. So I already wrote down some points, but I want him to read the book. Absolutely. Music to my ears, sleeping in till 7:30. So I look forward to doing some time with that. And Debbie, I am going to search for possibly a point concert across the country. We can use points and miles for the song that you just talked
Sarah
about.
Bareilles, yep.
Sarah Bareilles concert. So maybe your list might look a little different than mine, but are you willing to try these and possibly go on find her in concert somewhere if we can find some points to use? And I know I've got some airline points just percolating.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Now, it'll be a challenge for 7:30, so that'll be on a weekend, and I commit to doing that. I'll definitely, since, Brave is my walk-up song with Sarah Bareilles, of course I'm in for that. I'm also been sharing lots of the ideas on Unruly, and I get to speak on imposter syndrome, and we have some similar thoughts. And of course, any of them that I utilize that are yours, Lauren, I will give you credit for, but certainly incorporate some of those, especially that story about, you're at the White House and you're sitting there. And I love that every time you've ever shared it, you're like, and I totally missed the point of it, because it's got to be okay to look at ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I missed it, but I got it now. So those are some of the things that I'm going to take from it. That'll be wonderful. So I'm in, Barb, and we will definitely send you pictures, Lauren, from the concert.
Love it. Yeah. I might join you.
Come join us. That's even better, of course.
Would love that.
We would.
Lauren, before we wrap up, we all are on our edge of our seats to hear about that story about you joining the circus.
So I was not sure. I had pivoted away from med school. I had planned on going to med school. My mom says since I was 2 years old, which tells you that probably wasn't my decision to go to med school if it was at 2. And I decided I didn't want to go to med school. Actually, my body really decided for me. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And one of our family friends had graduated college years before, and his parents took him before he went to his MBA program to Club Med, and he stayed, much to their chagrin, and ended up being a catcher on the trapeze. Right? He literally did not leave Club Med after they took him for a week for this vacation. And after a couple of years, Peter became the catcher for the Flying Wallendas in Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. And I was talking to him over the winter break when we were both down in Florida, and he was like, you really should come join the circus with me for a year. Like, just take a year off, like chill out. I thought my mom was gonna die. Right. And I actually seriously considered this. I ended up getting into Dartmouth for a PhD program and decided that probably was smarter, but it was, I think, literally the first time that I ever considered being what I didn't call at that point, but would have been called unruly, right? It was the first time I ever thought about completely going off of the beaten path, completely going off of what people expected of me. And I really thought about it for a while.
Wow. Well, we got so much out of that, and we're not expecting the circus, but we got even more about how you ended up at Dartmouth. So that's wonderful. And I know we usually ask about that last comment, but Lauren, you were so generous. You gave us many, many things already. So before we head out, what would be your walk-off music if we've got the Sarah Bareilles as your walk-up music?
So I was thinking about this, and I love the song Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield. because I think there's so much that's still unwritten in my life and in so many other people's lives that I think it goes along with the same unruly concepts, but it allows you to write the next chapter of your life totally differently than what you've done so far.
Wow, that is great. And that speaks to me. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yes,
This
thank you.
this was
All right,
great. Thank you guys so
listeners.
much.
Oh, you are welcome. Listeners, you can stay connected with Lauren and on all social medias under her name, LaurenWeinner. She's got her maiden name in there too, so you can see it on the book, Wittenberg. So we've got it right here. It'll all be in the links. You can find her and her book pretty much everywhere. It's a national bestseller. Come on. If you don't have it though and you want to learn more, you can go to Lauren Wittenberg Weiner .com. And so similarly, you can follow Barb and me on Instagram and Facebook at the Business of Life Masterclass. Barb is the Stay at Work Mom, and I'm Debbie Lundberg most everywhere.
You like the insights that you heard, and I know you all did, please rate us 5 stars. We'd love for you to share our episode as well. We are committed to providing you with 5-star guests just like Lauren. So please do provide us with the feedback. We absolutely implement it. And stay tuned for our follow-through show next week, where you learn how Debbie and I did implementing Lauren's ideas. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Business of Life Masterclass, the podcast for successful people embracing every chance to accomplish and experience all you can in business and in life.
Listen, choose, do. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have ever thought, gosh, I'd like a collaborator, I wonder what else I could do, it's likely that the answer is a coach. Hi, I'm Debbie Lundberg, Performance and Mindset Coach with Presenting Powerfully. And if you would like confidential coaching to drive you to the next idea, the next role, or even to figure out your own brand, please reach out to us at Presenting Powerfully, 813-494-4438. Thank you.